Now, the family of a British-Iranian man says that authorities in Iran are preparing to execute him. Ali Reza Akbari was arrested in 2019 and sentenced to death on accusations of spying for the UK, which he denied. The UK has urged Iran to immediately release him. Well, Iran has executed 4 other men since December in connection with the anti-government protests across the country. The United Nations have said that Iran is weaponizing the death penalty in order to stamp out dissent. Well, we can discuss this further with my next guest who joins us from New York. It's Jason Rezaian, an Iranian-American Washington Post journalist. Jason, welcome. You spent 544 days imprisoned by Iranian authorities. When you are watching what is happening right now, it must be with an extremely heavy heart.
It's frankly chilling, Katja. I follow events in Iran very closely. I write about them. For the last several years, I've been following cases of other dual nationals imprisoned, like Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe and Morad Tabaz, Anousheh Ashuri, and others. And to learn about this case, Mr. Akbari, right now, it's heartbreaking. As you indicated, the UN says that Iran is weaponizing the death penalty. They've been doing that for a very long time. Now the world is paying attention, and I hope there's something that we can do about it.
Well, it's just important to stress and talk us through it, your first-hand experience, of course, because you're US Iranian national. This man is UK Iranian national, and yet Iran doesn't recognise dual nationality. So for them, they see them as an Iranian citizen. So anything the international community can do in terms of diplomacy, what happens?
Well, to be honest, they say that they don't recognize your nationality, but they recognize it very clearly when they arrest you and take you hostage and try and leverage you for concessions against your home government, which was the case in my imprisonment, the others that I mentioned, and many more throughout the past. So it's a very difficult quandary that the British government finds itself in. But they owe a responsibility to this man who's a citizen of your nation. Democratic countries have a specific responsibility and accountability to protect citizens, even when they're in hostile environments like Iran. So I hope that behind the scenes that things are happening, although we never know about those until someone is freed.
We have audio of Mr. Akbari saying that he was tortured, that he was forced to give a confession. What was your situation like in terms of your experience in Evin prison, the most notorious prison in Iran?
Well, I had different experiences. A year and a half is a long period of time, but my wife and I were arrested at gunpoint from our home, abducted, handcuffed, blindfolded, taken to Evin prison, where we were thrown immediately into solitary confinement. I spent 7 weeks in solitary confinement. She spent 10 weeks in solitary confinement. The only times we were brought out were to be interrogated on accusations that were laughable if they weren't so serious and nefarious in the ways that they treated us. The threat of death and dismemberment loomed over the situation for the entire time. And then ultimately I was brought on into the Revolutionary Court, the same court where so many of these people have been handed death penalties. So, you know, in a way, Iran's judicial system, especially what they call the revolutionary judicial system, is farcical. But the ramifications, the consequences for people, their families, entire communities are so destructive. And on the one hand, I'm glad that the international community is recognizing this, but it's going to be too late. Many people are at risk of being executed right now, including Mr. Akbari. And whatever we can do to raise our voices to compel the Islamic Republic to stop using this extreme measure as a tool of political repression, we have to do it.
Jason Rezaian, you spent 544 days in Evin prison. Thank you very much for just sharing your experience with us. And I know you write about this extensively in the Washington Post. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.